Do you still believe in the idea of Husker football? Like, we have moved the goalpost many times over the last however many years, right? Of like, I remember when I first came to the realization of they can't win the national championship. And I just remember when I felt that way, and I certainly feel that way now. They'll never win another national championship again. I mean, have we gotten into the territory of like believing that they can't even win a conference championship anymore? Or are you still a believer in that it just takes the certain whatever, administrator, coach, player, etc.?
Well, I think it can still be fun. I don't think it can be like nationally elite. I think it can be at a point where you do occasionally have that breakout season. Like, why can't Nebraska have an Arizona State season, or why can't Nebraska have an Indiana season? Like, there's no reason why you can't have those little spasms of success. But consistently, Josh, I don't know. I mean, there's not really a reason why it can't happen, but when you start talking about that stuff, about how it's still possible, it's a little bit like saying, like a 65-year-old guy saying, I could still run a marathon or whatever. Like, it's not, there's so many steps in between that you have to get to, before you can even really be realistic about that stuff. So, I don't really see any, like, I think the recruiting thing is kind of garbage. I mean, in the transfer portal era, like, Nebraska should be fine there. Financially, they should be fine. They're going to have the exposure. They're going to have the media platform. Like, there are lots of reasons why it can still work. But the fact that it hasn't now for so long, it just, you start talking that way and it almost makes you sound ridiculous. So, now that said, like, I'm still kind of old school, smug native Nebraskan. Like, they reach a bowl game and everybody's dancing on the field against Wisconsin, and I'm just rolling my eyes like, this is ridiculous. Like, what are we doing here?
Dirk, where the hell have you been?
I don't care. I don't care.
I 100% disagree with you.
I don't care. That's like having your toddler who, like, they threw their food off the table every day for a week, and suddenly they like finished a plate of French fries, and you're like, oh, good job, we're going to celebrate that. It's like, no, wake me up when they've beaten somebody they're not supposed to beat, Jack.
It's your fault if you didn't bring your toddler up to be a better. At some point, you've got to give your toddler some hope in life, right? It's your fault. You didn't give the damn toddler any hope growing up, and so they've never had any positive reinforcement. So, yeah, you better give them a little bit then, because they haven't never had it.
I can't celebrate 6-6 in the Pinstripe Bowl.
I'm not asking you to. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking the next generation to, or they're leaving, bud. They're leaving. And if you think it's hard now when an entire freaking generation leaves, man, I'll tell you what, it's going to get even harder to get over this curse.
It is funny when you start doing the math on some of this stuff. Like, are you ever like, when you're in the car and you're like listening to one of your favorite songs in 1988, and you're like, oh my gosh, the distance between that song and now is the equivalent of, like, me listening to a song from the 1940s, right, when I was a kid, right? Have you ever had those moments?
Right.
Or like the Back to the Future thing, right, where it's like 30 years in Back to the Future was 55. 30 years for us is 1994 when they last won a title.
So the reason I bring it up is, like, it's been 25 years since a conference championship. Like, my kid is 14. So, like, I'm trying to imagine, Jack, or, so I say you because you're more my age than Josh is, but, like, we are at the point, it's like the gap is now the same as it was, like, from when we were kids to, like, the late 60s. It's like.
Right. And here you are scolding your kids for getting too excited about touchdowns, right? Against, like, Dirk's like, don't cheer that loud. That's not how we did it in the 90s, right? Am I right?
I will say that strain of my personality is hard to let go of. I mean, it's just
sad. Man, it's good that you don't tweet that much anymore. Those people online are the worst.
How would you know?